Before we get into it, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit that bell icon so that you can be notified every time we put a financial tip video out or every time we put any video out that's going to help you understand how money works so that you can make it work for you. This is Tyrone Keys. Let's unlock prosperity with keys. We're going to take a look at what's currently going on in the economy in an attempt to create a rudimentary forecast for what we may see in the fall, starting in the October, November timeframe, that last quarter. Now, mind you, before we get started, this is a forecast and things become much more defined and clear as we get closer to the point that we're talking about. In this case, again, the fourth quarter. As we all know, several states decided to shutter their economies, and this has caused a ripple effect throughout the entire economy of the United States and the globe. The Federal Reserve is taking action on several fronts to try and mitigate the effects from this shutdown. The Fed has committed to purchasing toxic corporate debt. They have not placed a time limit on how long they will use this technique. They also have committed to $500 billion in money to states and municipalities to help them shore up their state and local economies. The Main Street lending program is another Fed technique that they are using to pump money into the small business sector. Now, this particular program is scheduled to expire in late September. We've got three of the four bases covered here. We've got the Fed addressing large businesses by instituting the buyback program for bonds. We've got the Main Street lending program for small businesses, which again will expire in late September. As of right now, that has not been extended past that date. And of course, we've got the $500 billion that the Fed is pumping into the state and local economies. So that leaves one sector, and that is the citizen, the consumer. Now, what's going on there is, as of the 7th of May, we had 33 million unemployment claims filed over the course of 7 weeks. What's being done to address that is state benefits, state unemployment benefits are being extended. We also have the federal government kicking in $600 per week to supplement those state unemployment benefits. And also there was the $1,200 in stimulus check. Now, the $600 that the Fed is providing, that's scheduled to expire in July, and all of the stimulus checks will be sent out as of August, so says the government. So you can see, again, we're lining up here to have either an economy that is out of the woods by the September, October timeframe, or an economy that's facing increased headwinds as these programs start to expire. The question on everyone's lips then becomes, will the consumer, after these lockdowns have expired, will the consumers run out and start to spend money and start to naturally restore this economy? Or will the consumer hang back and be ultra conservative given the situation? In order to develop some insight that will help us answer that question, let's look at the recovery tracker that Bloomberg has published. Now, we know this is a consumer economy, and we have a lot of downstream effects right now from the massive amount of unemployment that we've experienced, over 30 million claims in the last 7 weeks. Public transit ridership is down. This is significant for a few reasons. Number one, it shows that people who are still deemed essential and have to travel to work, they are reluctant to put themselves in a situation where they're in a confined space with strangers for an extended period of time. This also has ramifications on the oil sector because it does definitely affect the demand. And further, it's an indicator of what's happening in the municipal sector and in the state sector. When we look at the fees and taxes, in this case, bus fare, that are not being collected by the municipalities. And we see this throughout other sectors of the municipal and state economy with other types of fees, from parking fees to speed camera tickets, red light camera tickets, so on and so forth. So the states are going to face some pretty extreme headwinds going forward. Peter Franchot, who is the comptroller of Maryland, has come out and said that there will be layoffs, there will be furloughs. Airline travel is down. Again, not surprising. The transportation sector has been hit hard. Mortgage applications have stabilized over the past few weeks, but they have definitely seen better days. And then if we go down to restaurant bookings, that's quite obvious here. No one is dining in restaurants because of the shutdowns, active oil rigs. That goes back to the demand or lack thereof for oil. Steel production is at an extreme low as well. Now, the financial markets, they're not doing that bad, okay? The S&P 500 is down by 11%, just over 11%. That could portend confidence in this economy coming back full strength after the shutdowns have ended. An economic recovery is highly unlikely if the government's stimulus programs are allowed to expire and we cannot increase demand to the point of getting these 33 million people back to work. If those things cannot happen, then we will see a drop in consumer confidence, and we'll also see a drop in confidence in the investing markets. So we'll see stocks continue to struggle for the foreseeable future. We have what could be a leading indicator of how quickly the market will turn around and how quickly the economy will recover. Carnival Cruise Lines said that they are going to start booking cruises again in August. And they noticed that when they made that announcement, they realized a 600% spike in bookings compared to the previous 3 days before the news. So this represents a 200% increase over the same time period in 2019. So if Carnival and the leisure section of travel is an indicator, it does show us that people with disposable income are willing to spend it by getting on a cruise ship and going to an exotic destination. So that actually is a good sign, and it may indicate that we are on the road to a swift recovery. Our advice in relation to the equities markets is to remember one fundamental piece of investing advice. Do not engage in market timing. Market timing is when you try to predict the top of a market in order to sell or the bottom of the market in order to buy. That has traditionally turned out to be a recipe for disaster for retail investors, as it's tantamount to trying to predict the future. Further, we advise against locking in losses. If you sell into a down market, you are not just realizing that loss on paper, you are actually realizing that loss monetarily. So we would definitely advise against doing that at this time if you can help it. Also, consider your principal. It is definitely a good idea not to touch it. That principal is that amount of money that is out there designated to provide a return for you. So let's imagine you have $1 million in principal and you're making 10% off of that. So that principal is generating $100,000 per year for you in income. If you liquidate 20% of that principal, now you're down to $800,000. And if you're still lucky enough to be getting 10%, now you're only getting $80,000 in income. So if you can help it, try not to touch your principal. We're going to come back at you shortly with a real estate update. Sarita Saunders Keys is going to walk you through some of what's going on in the real estate market. So whether you're looking at buying or selling or you currently own, this is going to be an update you don't want to miss. Play to prosper. Talk to you soon.